The Chrono series of games are some of the most celebrated and critically acclaimed RPG series ever released, which is impressive considering only 2 main games exist in the series. Part of the reason for this is the incredibly detailed and complex storyline that deals with time travel in a manner and care not generally dealt with in most games. But what exactly happens in the games respective to these laws of time travel? And for that matter, what are those laws? What are the actual events of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross? How did they come to pass? And where are they at the end of the final entry in the series, Chrono Cross? These are hard questions to answer, so in this 3-part series of videos, I will attempt to explain the entire lore of the Chrono universe, from the beginning to the end of time, and all the complexity in between. Part 1 will focus on Chrono Trigger, Part 2 on Chrono Cross, and finally, in Part 3, I will attempt to explain why and how the events that came to pass could actually occur, discuss some speculated theories, and explain the laws of time travel in the universe. It should be said that this video is aimed at people who have played and finished both games. That being said, I will try to keep Part 1 free of any Chrono Cross spoilers. However, trying to describe the events of Chrono Cross without spoiling Chrono Trigger can be tricky to say the least. With that, I hope you enjoy the video. Let's begin. Instead of starting off where the game begins, at 1000 AD in Truce Village with Chrono waking up out of bed, we're going to go way back first, to the very beginning of time. We'll get to Chrono and gang later, but we still have a few million years before that. Several million years ago, animal species began inhabiting the planet, namely the reptites, the News, and the ape-like humans. While the New mainly kept to themselves in hidden caverns, there was constant war between the humans and the reptites for control of the planet. During this period, a young human named Ayla becomes chief of her clan, while a reptite named Azala becomes the leader of the reptites. So they fight for a while, until one day a star is spotted in the sky. Ayla calls it Lavos, with La meaning fire and Vos meaning big in their primitive language. This star crashed into the planet, destroying the reptites' Tyranno lair in the process. Lavos turns out actually to be an alien being that has come to Earth to drain the planet's energy, so it can create new spawn of itself to visit more planets, and pretty much eventually destroy the universe, probably. Lavos buries into the planet and begins his era-long feast. And here we have our first split in the timeline. Now, let's just say Lavos didn't crash into the planet and single-handedly eliminate the reptites. What if he thought Earth looked super lame and instead went to Mars or something? Who would have won the war, the humans or the reptites? Well, seeing as the reptites were more intelligent and had a greater grasp on technology at the time, they probably would have. We're going to call this what-if scenario the reptite timeline. Remember that because it will be important later. In this timeline, instead of the humans controlling the planet, the reptites do. Anyway, back to the original timeline. So a few million years pass by, there's an ice age, and what's left of the decimated reptites die off. A piece of Lavos gets separated or broken off from him, and retains a sort of sentience. This is called the frozen flame. See, while Lavos is still chilling out near the Earth's core, the frozen flame is on the surface, and through it, Lavos can communicate and observe the surface world. The humans come into contact with this flame, which drastically progresses their evolution, to the point that some humans obtain the ability to wield magic. This newly buffed human race establishes a great kingdom to go with their newfound power, the Kingdom of Zeal. While the magic-wielding humans populate this new kingdom of floating pretty islands, the dirty, smelly, non-magic humans are stuck on the barren, cold Earth to live in caves. Fast forward some few million years and a few key people are born. Queen Zeal, who rules over the kingdom, gives birth to 2 children, Janus and Shala. Now, if you were to remember one character in this entire series of videos, remember Shala. She will definitely be brought up again. 3 gurus are also born, Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. Melchior begins working on the Mammon machine at the behest of Queen Zeal, which, when the frozen flame is put into, will harness even more power from Lavos than ever before, catapulting the human race even further in evolution. Shala receives a special pendant made of a special material known as Dreamstone to control the Mammon machine. Melchior also uses the Dreamstone to forge the Ruby Knife, which can be used to destroy the Mammon machine. He's then banished to a mountain. Yikes. The Mammon machine is turned on and Lavos is awakened, showing the humans just how powerful he truly is by destroying the entire kingdom of Zeal in one fell swoop. He creates wormholes in time and space, which send the three gurus and Janus to different time periods. Gasper ends up at the end of time, Melchior somewhere before 1000 AD, Balthazar somewhere before 2300 AD, and Janus to sometime before 600 AD. The human race is set back thousands of years, as the magic users and smelly earthly humans must coexist in this cataclysmic new world. They begin the rebuilding process. Some of these humans find Shala's pendant, and they keep it in their family for generations. Another few million years pass by. The humans are rebuilding slowly. They begin the construction of kingdoms once again, notably the Kingdom of Gardia, which, worryingly, finds the frozen flame, which has survived all of the hardship. Various other cities and kingdoms also get built, such as Por and Koros. The Middle Ages begin. Janus arrives in this new world, only moments ago witnessing his entire world destroyed. He is discovered by a creature named Ozzy, who takes him in, raises him, and renames him Magus, due to his magical powers. Meanwhile, a young knight named Glenn becomes the squire to the hero Cyrus. About this time, Magus and Ozzy are terrorizing the population in an attempt to gain more power to gain revenge on Lavos for destroying his home and family. Magus confronts Cyrus and Glenn at the top of Dendaro Mountains. Cyrus is unfortunately killed, and Magus turns Glenn into an anthropomorphic frog. Magus, now confident in his power, begins summoning Lavos in his castle, believing he can take his revenge. He is, as you can probably tell, killed in this battle. Sad face. The world continues spinning. Lavos is nearing the peak of his power, however, having slept for millions of years. Sometime before 1000 AD, some important people are born. Chrono, Luca, and Marl. Marl, also known as Nadia, is the princess of Gardia. Luca's mother loses her legs after one of her husband's inventions malfunctions. Melchior, fresh from the Zeal fiasco, sets up shop near the hostile village of Medina. A few years later, Luca and her father invent the Telepod, a teleportation device which they aim to show off at the upcoming Millennial Fair. And here we actually begin the game. Okay, a lot to take in before the game even begins. But wait, you may ask. The events I've just described aren't how they happen in the game. Why is this? Well, what I've just described is the timeline that occurs without the influence of any time travel shenanigans, save for Lavos sending the Gurus and Janus through time. These are the events that occur up until the beginning of the game. Now, what would happen if Chrono and the gang didn't end up travelling through time? Before we begin time travel, let's continue down this timeline first. So a few hundred years pass by, and humanity's in a pretty good state thanks to advancements made by Luca in artificial intelligence. Then, during the year 1999 AD, the worst scenario comes to pass. The Day of Lavos. Just like Zeal all those millions of years ago, Lavos rises and destroys about 99% of the human population of Earth, sending humanity once again back into the brink of extinction. Lavos begins his reproduction process atop of Death Peak. A few hundred years pass, humanity is barely clinging onto existence, mainly due to machines known as Enertrons. Balthazar shows up from his wormhole and begins working on a time machine known as the Epilogue. Around this time, a computer known as Mother Brain organizes a robot revolution that aims to obliterate the remaining humans that are still alive. This succeeds. The human race is wiped out. Lavos' offspring leaves the broken planet in an attempt to find more planets to drain. Lavos stays on Earth until the end of time. And, pretty much, the Earth is destroyed. So, what is the end of time? Well, basically, it's a pocket of space outside of the normal time flow in which Usually, nothing can enter or leave. That was until Gasper arrived at the end of time, thanks to Lavos. But what if Lavos never landed? Remember that Reptite timeline I mentioned before? It'll be more important in the next video, but in summary, the Reptites flourished and built a thriving civilization. During this, they evolved into a race known as the Dragonians, and created a being known as the Dragon God, comprised of 6 dragons of varying traits to govern the world. They create a mighty city known as Dinopolis, and we'll leave it there for now and come back to this spot next video. Okay, so world ending, end of time, Lavos wins, hooray! Now let's actually begin the story of Chrono Trigger. Again, I'm assuming you've already played the game before, so apologies if I seem to skim over some of the details, as I'll mainly be approaching this from an important events perspective. Okay, back in 1000 AD, Chrono wakes up and heads into the Millennial Fair. He meets up with Marle after running into her and tries out Luca's new invention, which Marle also does. Her pendant seems to have a strange reaction to it, however, and she is sent through a wormhole in time. Chrono goes after her and ends up in 600 AD. Here he finds Marle, only to see her disappear before his very eyes. Luca shows up and explains what is called the Grandfather Paradox, as it appears that the Queen in this time was kidnapped and may end up dying unless someone finds her. She also revealed she invented a gate key, which allows her to exploit temporal anomalies to achieve time travel. Chrono and Luca meet up with Frog, who helped them save the Queen. I should note at this point that Chrono has arrived after Magus has turned Glenn into a frog, but at this point he is still in the process of summoning Lavos and has not completed the ritual. Marle phases back into existence and all seems well. The three go back to the present day where, oh no, Chrono is accused of kidnapping Marle, who is revealed to the gang as Princess Nadia of Guardia. Chrono escapes from prison with the help of Luca and Marle, and they enter a new wormhole, which takes them to 2300 AD, where they witness via a video the events that transpired in 1999 AD, the Day of Lavos. Resolving to not allow such a fate to occur, they agree to save the world with the power of time travel. Woo! They find a robot named Robo, and with his help find a new gate that teleports them to the end of time, where they meet up with Gaspar and have a chat about time or something. Chrono and the gang go back to 1000 AD to find a way to stop Lavos. Through some investigation, they discover that Lavos was apparently created by Magus during the summoning ritual back in 600 AD. Travelling back to 600 AD, they meet up with Frog yet again, who is initially disheartened after remembering his first encounter with Magus. You know, with the whole becoming a frog thing. They need the legendary Masamune to open up the way to Magus' castle. After finding the Masamune broken, they are told by Melchior in 1000 AD that a Dreamstone is needed to reforge the Masamune. You know, like the one he used in Zeal. He points them towards the prehistoric times to find a Dreamstone. Upon arriving in 65 million BC, they meet up with Ayla, who informs them of the whole war between the humans and the Reptites. Ayla gives Chrono a Dreamstone after a night of heavy drinking, but the gate key is stolen by the Reptites. After getting it back, the gang returns back to Melchior, and the Masamune is newly reforged. Frog agrees to wield the Masamune, and the group progresses towards Magus' castle. After fighting Ozzy and Magus' generals, they confront the mage in the middle of his summoning ritual. After beating Magus, he of course reveals that he didn't create Lavos, and that he's actually trying to kill him. And here's where the first big major time-altering event occurs. Magus no longer dies during his encounter with Lavos. Instead, he is transported back to his home time of Zeal. Presented with this golden opportunity, he concocts a scheme to destroy Lavos before the Mammon machine is activated. He disguises himself as a prophet to Queen Zeal, his mother, as he is able to predict events he already knows will come to pass. Meanwhile, Chrono and the lads have been transported back to 65 million BC. They help Ayla in the final battle with Azala and the Reptites at Tyrannal Lair, before a star is observed in the sky, that star of course being Lavos. They manage to escape the lair before Lavos crashes, obliterating the Reptites. Chrono and the gang now realise what Lavos really is, and using a newly formed time gate, travel to the Kingdom of Zeal. Here they learn more about Lavos, what the Mammon machine is, and more importantly they meet Shala and Janus. On meeting Chrono, Janus states, "One of you will shortly perish." Shala asks the group to rescue Melchior from the Mountain of Woe. The group is promptly kicked out of Zeal and pushed back to their own time at the advice of the prophet Magus, even though Shala objects. After asking Gaspar about a way to get back to antiquity, he mentions the Wings of Time. The group locates the Epoch in 2300 AD after finding out about Balthazar, and arrive back in Zeal. They rush to the Ocean Palace, which houses the Mammon Machine. With the Mammon Machine being activated, Chrono plunges the ruby knife into it, which transforms the knife into the Massa Moon. But it seems to have no effect on deactivating it. Lavos awakens. Magus reveals himself and begins his ever-so-stupid plan of attacking Lavos head-on. He is quickly defeated, but not killed. Chrono then stands up to the creature. His friends watch as he gets obliterated by the overwhelming force of Lavos. The world gets destroyed just as it did before, except this time some things are different as a result of Chrono and gang being there. Shala manages to save everyone on the Ocean Palace, bar the 4 that Lavos sends to different time periods, including her mother, Queen Zeal. Shala is then taken by Lavos to a place called the Darkness Beyond Time, which we will go into later. The Ocean Palace seems to rise and becomes the Black Omen, with Queen Zeal inside, still attempting to utilize the Mammon Machine. So, Chrono is dead. Bummer. And the remaining group is still stuck in this time zone just as the world nearly ended. The survivors escape a ship commandeered by a Zeal general known as Dalton, who we may talk about in a later video. He tries to take the Epoch for his own, but fails miserably. Unable to cope with Chrono's death, the group finds Magus, who now reveals that he is actually Janus, and he says that there may be a way to save Chrono. He joins the group. Talking to Gaspar at the end of time, he indeed says that there may be a way to save Chrono. They receive the Chrono Trigger from him, and following his instructions are able to return to the moment of Chrono's death, and replace him with a fake clone, thereby taking Chrono out of that moment in time. The revived Chrono meets them back safe and sound. Now there is only one thing left to do: destroy Lavos. There are a myriad of side quests you can do at the end of the game, some of which delve into deeper backstories, but I'm only going to mention a few as this video is running long enough as it is. There are basically 3 ways in which the player can fight Lavos now. They can go straight for him, fight Queen Zeal at the Black Omen, or enter the Darkness Beyond Time. Fighting Queen Zeal is fairly straightforward. You enter, you kill her, and you go to Lavos. The other way, added with the DS version of the game, is more important to the story we're telling. After some extensive questing, the gang enters the Darkness Beyond Time, the place where timelines go to die. Here, they meet a future version of Magus, after Lavos has been defeated. They encounter the Dream Devourer, a fusion of Lavos and Shala, who is being trapped and bound by Lavos. Shala's will is being altered by this creature, stating that she wants to destroy all of existence. After a brief but futile battle with the creature, the group is incapacitated, and what little humanity is left in Shala tells her brother to live his life to the fullest, before the Dream Devourer consumes everything, and that she is beyond help. She sends him to an unspecified place in time, where Magus reveals that he has no recollection of who he is, however he must find something important. While it's not been confirmed, it is generally accepted that he takes up the name Guile, and journeys to the El Nino Archipelago, where the events of Chrono Cross will take place. After all that, the final showdown is imminent. The party commences the final fight with Lavos by incapacitating its outer shell and going inside the creature where they fight the inner core. Frustrated at how this one creature has dictated the fate of humanity, the group finds the strength to defeat the beast. The day of Lavos is averted and a new timeline is created. While Chrono Trigger has multiple endings, we can more or less piece together a canon ending from the information in the game. Chrono marries Maril and becomes the King of Guardia. Frog and Isla return to their respective times, while Robo returns to a presumably new future in 2300 AD. We won't be hearing the end of him, however. The most important character to note in the epilogue is Luca. Through a cutscene, as she is walking through the forest, she notices an abandoned baby with a very familiar looking pendant attached. This is where we end Chrono Trigger. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Big shout out to the guys at Chrono Compendium, as I based most of my research on their exhaustive analysis of Chrono Trigger. Now I know many people will probably have questions, so please leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and let's get some discussion going. Was I inaccurate in any of my information? Do you disagree with any interpretations or conclusions I may have drawn? Please let me know, and I'll make sure to address them in the third video. Until then, make sure to subscribe in time to be notified for part 2, where we'll discuss the lore and timelines of Chrono Cross. Also, be sure to like this video and share it around and, stuff. Thanks for watching.